myself, briefly, I'm just an author who's taught various workshops here at AC Bilbrew for 13 years. So I'll be back with these fine folks being a director. And without that, I would like to get started with the anthology that you folks published. And we're talking about featuring your stories.
Okay.
I would like to talk about that. So I have 3 questions I'm going to ask you. And nothing be long, just enough time for our main discussion about artificial intelligence. But this is a way to introduce each one of you to you, but outside the bio. So I'll start with you, Pat. Okay, this is a challenge to the writing community, the rise of artificial intelligence, all this, right? This is it, created by the anthology. So, what was your anthology in the AC Bilbrew Writers Workshop? What was it?
The name of my chapter?
The name of your chapter.
Oh, my chapter was called Looking Back.
Okay, that's right. Okay, so what was your reason why you wrote this?
Well, I wanted people to know what it was like to be black in 1940 in California, Texas and California, what life was like in 1940, 45.
Right, okay.
That was the reason.
And what do you think that readers will gain from the experience?
Well, I think that readers will understand your childhood determines who you are. How you were raised determines how you see the world. And so I wanted people to understand that when they see a person of a different age or a different ethnic background, to understand it's because of their background is why they're like they are, and to understand it. And so I thought I would share my background so you'll understand where I'm coming from at my age.
And what was your feeling, what did you gain from this?
Well, I gained that you can't judge people by your perspective. You have to get to know the person. And to know the person, you'll see where they're coming from, their values of life.
Good.
Yes.
So, Ron, what is the name of your anthology, your piece of the anthology?
It's called Watts Raised.
Okay. So, same questions I would ask to Pat is that, what was your reason for writing this?
They twisted my arm.
Okay.
If it was up to me, I probably wouldn't have written this because I was in the mode of writing poetry and fiction at the time. But so I was glad I did it because it's now going to be the start of a memoir.
Okay. What do you think that the reader will gain from this?
Well, it's like Pat said, I cover a lot of more territory, basically the 50s, 60s, and all the way to the present in this particular writing that I'm going to expand. So, a lot of my upbringing and the places where I lived are being or have been erased.
Yes.
And this is my way of making sure that we don't disappear altogether. And because I feel that unless we write the narrative will not be told or it will be screwed up.
Okay.
That's my motivation.
That's good. So what did you get out of this?
Well, it made me reflect on a lot of stuff I have repressed. Really, and it brought up a lot of emotions and feelings that I just pushed back. But I think for the reader, like she said, where we were raised, how we were raised affects who we are. And that's important to understand, right? And so my contribution is that for those who don't know, you read this, you will know.
Yeah.
Really, and you'll see some similarities even for what happened in my period that are still happening right now.
Good. Okay. Thank you so much, Ron. So, Rona, what's the name of your piece in the anthology?
So let me tell you, this is why it's so important because I couldn't remember the name of my title. So I'm over here really quickly going back through the technology, but the name of my title was It Runs in the Family.
Okay.
And I changed that title so many times, that's why I couldn't remember. And we wrote the book, we wrote our stories years ago, but the self-publishing portion of it is what took a lot of time. So there was a lot of stuff that I forgot, like the title.
Okay. So what would the reader gain from reading your piece?
So empathy for others, because my piece, it speaks about a time in my childhood that led us to Alateen, which is the 12-step program for teenagers. And there was a lot of addiction in our family, but there's always a backstory to it. And so when we see people acting in different ways, or they upset us or whatever, if we can just have a little empathy and just be forgiving, be a little more tolerant of each other, but sometimes we do have to separate ourselves, but we can do it in a loving way so that we just don't, we can be graceful about it.
Okay. And what did you get out of this?
So giving myself grace, because we can be our own worst enemy with the words that we speak and the voices in our head. And so regardless of how much I've flopped, regardless of how much I failed, felt like an idiot, I mean, these words sometimes I would just beat myself up with, and I just learned to give myself grace. And it's okay that we screwed up today, we as in me. It's okay, but we gotta keep moving on.
Good. Good. Thank you so much. Well, Zola, so what is the name of your piece in the anthology?
My place, my piece is called Imprinting My Soul. I stand out because I've been imprinted by the fact that I'm a little short. Okay? 4 feet 9 and a quarter. And so and that's the name of my piece.
Okay. So what would the reader get out of this?
Okay, I would hope that it wouldn't have to be a medical emergency or trauma in your life for you to take time to examine your life. Who are you today? What brought you to be who you are today? Do I need to have a fork to eat? Can I eat with my hand? Okay? All this imprinting that you get as a child, and sometimes people don't know that they're imprinting you or scaring you, like they walk in the room and it's like, oh, that's the person who beats me up every time they show up, okay? So anytime you see a person that's this tall, this big, it's like they beat you up, okay? And so that's important that you realize why sometimes you're afraid of situations because you were imprinted small.
Okay. And what did you get out of this?
I got out of this that I'm okay. Okay, I'm not perfect. I don't have any holes in my hands. I don't have any corners in my skin. Okay, so I'm okay. And that I'm on the journey to be more perfect and better in life. And that I hope that in my journey that I can encourage others to just take time to be yourself and love yourself. And that's important.
Good, good. So now we get to Mr. Underground Master himself. Oh, what is the name of your piece in the anthology?
I can tell you about it all by holding up this book. And the lady's name is Dr. Margaret Burroughs, and she's responsible for me being here. She was my high school teacher, and at the age of 15, I was on my way to the penitentiary because I was doing all of the things at the time that would eventually lead to that. She grabbed me by the collar and said, you don't have to go to jail. You could become a writer. It would never occur to me. Up to that time, I was just simply a superb liar. And that's what most of the fiction writers are, superb liars. She opened doors for me. The name of the piece I'm calling is My Savior, Dr. Margaret Burroughs. I was 15, like I said, and I had no real ambition other than to make money. She made me a professional writer, and I'll let you look at the way the story was formed within the anthology. I started out being a professional writer by writing love letters, love notes for people in my high school class who couldn't write. At the time, it was a much more romantic time, and if you wanted to hit on a young lady, you had to write her a note. And some people in my, that's the way it was then. Okay. I started off small. I would write an ordinary for $1, an extraordinary for $2, an exotic for $3, and an outrageous for $4. If you, with all due respect, there are no kids in the house. If you wanted to get the panties, come to Odie in order to get the note that you need. I see you laugh. If you wanted to get it, you came to Odie for the note that you need. I was guaranteed if it didn't happen, I'd give you your money back. When Dr. Burroughs caught me writing an outrageous, she said, okay, take all of the dirty words out and it would be a nice piece of writing. So it stemmed from that day to this, and I'm forever grateful to her.
Okay. I think you answered all three of my questions. Good job, boy. That's why you're the master.
I thought I covered a lot of ground right
You
there.
did, you did. So, everyone's stories is an example why AI can never